Thank you all so much for being here. We appreciate it. And thanks to everybody standing behind me and the many thousands of Washingtonians, first responders, and neighbors who are helping out Washingtonians who are facing an extraordinarily and really historic challenges all across our state in numerous counties. We just deeply appreciate all this tremendous work. We're chatting in there, and briefly we just had with King County officials how we have a lot of folks who are first responders. I ran them up in Mount Vernon yesterday who not only are doing this work to help others, but then going to their homes later on, often late in the day or in the middle of the night, take care of their situation at home, which is facing their own personal challenges. So there are many folks making tremendous sacrifice, and we want to thank each and every one of them for the work they're doing. I'm going to be relatively brief in my comments, but I will start with an update on the call I received from Secretary Noem earlier today. I deeply appreciated her phone call, obviously. Deeply appreciated the granting of the emergency declaration that the state of Washington has requested to help address the real crisis that we're facing. What I would say about that call was I think it's exactly the kind of call that people say Washington or American people would want between a cabinet member and a governor when there's a crisis like this. It's gracious. She asked how we were doing here in Washington State. I just deeply appreciated the call and their support. The emergency declaration in a nutshell, as I continue over, just to make sure it's clear, helps navigate emergency work that's going on right now. Rescuing individuals, for example, clearing debris from highways. A separate conversation will come. We'll go back to the federal government, obviously, for assistance in the undoubtedly very significant financial resources we will need as we dig out from this major event. That's a separate request that we make to the federal government. Now is not the time for that. We're very focused on what's right in front of us. We just want to make sure we're clear about what this emergency declaration means. It helps us get through the short term, but there will be a separate conversation, and I obviously preview that for the Secretary, that this was going to be very significant for the state of Washington. I also want to say a special thank you to our entire congressional delegation. All signed a letter requesting that the President sign that emergency declaration. Individuals like Senator Campbell were making phone calls to their extensive contacts within the White House and the administration. This has been a bipartisan effort to request and to get this emergency declaration. So I just deeply appreciate the bipartisan work at the federal and local level from many voices to make this request and to make the case. Making this case was extremely important to the state of Washington. Literally, we communicate essentially a letter to the federal government. That was 48 hours ago. I was sitting next to General Welsh and others down at Camp Murray, literally drafting that, editing that document to make sure it said exactly what I wanted to say to the federal government so they understood the gravity of the situation we were facing. And once again, I just want to say we deeply appreciate the support of this federal government at a time of real need here in Washington State. We're also deeply appreciative, and obviously information is preliminary. Reports are coming in real time, to put it very mildly, but for the past 48 hours, 2 to 3 days, there have been no reported loss of life at this time. I want to emphasize, of course, information is very fluid, the situation is very dynamic, but we're exceedingly grateful and thankful that our prayers have been answered, that this time no loss of life has occurred. The situation is truly historic. Rivers like the Skagit River and Cedar Rivers literally experiencing historic levels of flooding. And so this is something that the people of the state of Washington have not faced before, this level of flooding. And so we encourage, of course, individuals to follow the orders from their local officials when it comes to evacuation orders. It's deeply important, not just for those individuals and their safety, but for the safety of first responders who are coming to rescue individuals who do not follow those evacuation orders. Thank you for putting in through your media streams, examples of the rescues that have happened, which are, to put it mildly, very dramatic, and obviously put first responders at tremendous risk to save people from their cars or from their homes. So please follow those orders from your local officials who know the situation on the ground. And just before I turn this over to Senator Cantwell, I'll just emphasize again, the situation is extremely unpredictable. We saw that in Burlington last night, where there was a situation where literally in the middle of the night, about 1,000 folks had to flee their homes in a really dire situation. It is very unpredictable. We are all doing the very best we can to provide the best information, but we want people to know it is very unpredictable. Lastly, I'll just say that, and we just came from this briefing with King County officials. We appreciate the mayor hosting us with the city. And what I'm seeing in every conversation I'm having for these past several days is strong cooperation, and that's probably an understatement, but strong cooperation at every level of government, with local officials, with tribes, with individuals, with community organizations. Every time I ask somebody, and I ask this all the time, is there anything else you need? The answer I get is no, we're getting everything we need. We'll let you know if we need more. And that's exactly the answer, obviously, that I as governor want to hear. But that only happens, I only get that answer, I'm mindful of this, if that level of cooperation is happening on a very deep level, and we are seeing that, and we're going to continue doing that to make sure that Washingtons are as safe as possible.